Okay, so I got a selection of hot takes here from the internet. Obviously, I did not choose them. So yeah, I don't know what's coming, but we're going to discuss each of them separately and see if it's really a hot take or not. Let's start with the first one. Phones coming with polycarbonate body and glass back. Aluminum body and plastic back is a better combo as plastic is shatterproof and metal has better strength and integrity. I guess it depends. Most of the phones, like the mid-range ones, will try and come with glass on the back and aluminum frame, which is fine. Well, it depends on the glass, but I personally prefer this combination. Indeed, well, this is a flagship, that's true, but we have titanium frame and this matte glass on the back, which is very good. It's Gorilla Glass Armor, something like that, and it's been quite good. This phone has taken a lot of hits from me. I'm happy with it. But I see your point as well. Indeed, plastic is a very good material if you want to have a more resistant phone over time, but you need to take into consideration the reasoning behind the plastic choice. Most of the times, manufacturers will choose plastic if they want to cut cost. But if they have the budget for a flagship or a more expensive mid-range phone, they will probably choose glass. Matte or glossy, it doesn't really matter. They will choose glass for the feeling. Marketing stuff, indeed, not very practical, but at the same time, we've come a long way, and the glass back combined with aluminum or titanium frame in this case is not that bad anymore. And I had an iPhone 13 before this. Again, it's taken a lot of hits. Aluminum frame, which indeed has suffered visual wise, but it resists and it still stays strong. TWS are the most irreparable products, creating e-waste. I guess you are referring to true wireless stereo, which, yeah, it's pretty hard to repair them because of the form factor, really. I don't know if I agree with the waste part though, because look, I had wireless headphones before and I still have wireless headphones. It really depends on who makes them and for what price. I do understand that not everyone can afford a 200 euros or dollars headphones pair, and that's fair, that's valid, but there are still like decent options in the lower range which can perform well for years. I had a pair of, I don't even know the name of the company, it was a Chinese brand, something like that, 20 euros. That's the amount of money you had to pay for those headphones at that time. They weren't really fancy, but they were doing the job, at least for me, and I've used them for 5 years. And I believe that's a reasonable lifespan for a wireless product. As simple as that. And yes, I do agree that companies have brought us to this point where we do not really have any choice, practically speaking, than to use wireless headphones. Because, oh well, we don't have a headphone jack anymore. And, well, thank you, Apple. But at the same time, wireless headphones are not as bad as they used to be. Next, oh my god, I have to zoom in. Any mid-range phone will last for 5 years at least, and flagships will easily last much longer. Heck, people are still using iPhone 6s from 2014. I don't agree with the mid-range part. A mid-range phone will last you at least 2 to 3 years, and yes, you might be able to get to 5 years with it. You need to think about how it will behave, how it will work in 5 years from now on. Two main factors to be taken into consideration here. First things first is the hardware, which nowadays is not that bad anymore. On a mid-range, you get good screen, good battery, good charging, even decent processors. But the second one, which is the most important one, is the software support and how it will manage to run applications in 5 years from now on. I have a friend who had a Samsung Galaxy A52s 2021 generation, and it was working well. You had an AMOLED screen, 90 Hz, pretty much anything that you needed for stuff like social media, some documents, email, a photo. Sometimes it didn't have the best cameras, but they were usable. But after 4 years, and that's a few months ago in 2025 this year, the screen suddenly shut down and it didn't come back to life. No reason whatsoever at all. It hasn't been dropped into water. It's been in a case with protective film over it all the time. It happens. It's a mid-range and it's been like 300 euros when he got it. And yeah, he was happy with the result. 4 years for a mid-range, that's more than enough. Flagship wise though, I do somehow agree with you. And I know I'm coming with only one example, but what I'm trying to say is, yes, mid-range phones can last 5 years, not at least 5 years, even if you're a light user. As simple as that. The software part will not allow you to run it well for that much time. As simple as that. The software support and the applications that are being developed over time will simply not allow you to use it for that much time, unfortunately. But if it's still good after 3-4 years, well, I guess it's done its job properly and it's been worth. With the flagship part though, I can somehow agree. The longest I kept the phone, I used the phone, was 3.5 years, the iPhone XS, and the only reason why I changed it was because, well, I broke it down pretty bad and it wasn't usable anymore. And at that time, to me, it didn't make a lot of sense to change the screen and everything. But yeah, flagships can last 5 years at least without any issue. I'm planning to keep my S24 Ultra for at least 4 years, but if it still works properly after 4 years and I will not have any reason to change it, well, happy days. Open source software is always better than closed source proprietary software. I do not agree with you. Open source software is not better than closed source software. Closed source software is not better than open source software either. So yeah, it depends on what you want from a phone or an ecosystem or an app or an operating system, whatever you want. Both are coming with their advantages and disadvantages. The easiest example is the eternal battle between iOS or iPhones and Android phones. A lot of people have pro and counter arguments for both of them. What you need to remember is that open source and closed source is better or not for you. Remember that. Personally, I'm more of a fan of open source at this point in my life, but at the same time, I was enjoying a lot of the perks that were coming with the closed source ecosystem that Apple is bringing. None of them are better than the other. It depends on what you prefer and what you need. As simple as that. Fast charging does degrade battery faster, and it's been proven. People who deny it don't understand how it works. It's not a bad thing if some flagships don't have super fast charging like Samsung and Apple. No. Don't come to me and tell me that 25 watts on a $1,100 phone is good, because it's not. Definitely not. Now, let's discuss the fast charging and the degradation of the battery over time. Technically speaking, you are right. Fast charging is degrading the battery faster because of the heat. The faster the charging, the more heat it brings in. But technology has evolved. Manufacturers have come with a lot of solutions to counter that. That's why in most of the phones you'll have 2 batteries, in some cases even 3 or 4, depending on the case. Yeah, the lifespan of a battery nowadays is no different, is maybe just slightly better than what you used to get on a smartphone like 5 or 7 or 10 years ago. I know we should improve that, and maybe if we would charge our phones with like 5 watts, like the way we used to do it 10 years ago, the batteries would last longer, but I don't think you would get that much extra lifespan to be worth waiting hours and hours for it to be fully charged. As simple as that. Personally, I prefer to just plug in my phone, wait for like 30 minutes, have 75-80% and go, rather than, I don't know, leaving it on charge overnight. On the paper, if I would have to charge my Samsung with a 5 watts charger, it would take at least 4 hours. I'm not leaving my phone 4 hours on charging. MKBHD made a very good video on the subject. I recommend you to go and watch that one. You'll realize that fast charging nowadays is not as bad as it looks. iPhones are worth it. Not the Pro Max, by the way. No, they're not. In fact, any flagship nowadays is simply not worth it. $1,200 or even worse, $1,400 after taxes and everything, after shipping, you name it, in countries like, let's say, Romania. No, simply no, because 2 main reasons. 1, the profit margin is big, is like huge with flagships, and 2, they are trying to sell you services afterwards to make you pay even more money, like storage on Google Drive or storage on Apple Cloud. No, thank you. And now what comes into my mind is that video from the Nothing Company where they made MKBHD's dream phone, and it costed like what, $550 to produce it? Obviously without R&D, software support, stuff like that. But that's just a rough estimate. When it comes to phone like this S24 Ultra, which is produced in like millions, costs are going down a lot. So instead of paying $550 to produce this S24 Ultra, it will probably cost Samsung $350, $400 in reality. Well, I'm only guessing. If someone can give me a better estimate, I'm open for it. But from $400, let's say $500 to $1,200, $1,300, the price which it had when it was launched here in Romania, you can't tell me that marketing and R&D and stuff like that. To me, a flagship, well, at least a decent flagship, should cost no more than $800-900. And the normal iPhones which are starting with that price, $800, they're not worth either, because they're missing stuff that we should see on a flagship, like a telephoto camera or a 120Hz refresh rate screen. But if you know that you can use them for 5-6 years at least, then yeah, they will be worth it. But that doesn't only apply on iPhones, it applies on any flagship really, or any phone really. Next, consoles are better than PCs for gaming. Of course. It depends again. I'm not saying consoles are worse. They come with clear advantages. First things first, they're very convenient. You just plug in, log in with your account, then download games or put in the CD and play the game using a controller. Easy stuff. They don't require much attention maintenance-wise, and they're quite cheap for the performance they offer. $600 for a PS5 nowadays, and you can play pretty much any title in 4K 30 FPS. That's not bad. But what you need to consider here is that the 4K is not real 4K, is actually full HD scaled up to 4K, and well, you cannot upgrade it, and then you have those passes which you need to pay monthly to play online games. Yeah, those are just disadvantages that are coming with a console, whereas on PCs, you can build them on your own. I'm personally a PC guy and I love building PCs. Yes, they're more expensive if you want the same performance, but they're more versatile. You can play more games, you can do much more stuff on a PC. And obviously you can just plug in a controller or two and play any other game that you would play on a console using controllers. Again, it depends on you and what you prefer. If you would say here that I prefer consoles over PCs for gaming, I would agree with you. But if you are saying consoles are simply better than PCs for gaming, then no, I do not agree with you. They're convenient, and if you are fine with a console, just go ahead and buy a console. Nobody says that you shouldn't. Seems like I lost a light, but we'll keep going. Next, 99% of people buying flagships have no use case for the processing power and the RAM available to them. RAM is good for absolutely everyone. Even if you do not see it in action, it is good. The more RAM you have, the better. And also, mid-range phones are coming with a lot of RAM as well nowadays. So yeah, that goes down. Processing power, I can agree. A lot of people are buying flagships, or at least from what I've seen nowadays, a lot of people are buying flagships for their cameras, and that's pretty valid because flagships are taking the best photos. As simple as that. I wouldn't say 99% of the people buying flagships have no use for the processing power. I would say that maybe half of them. Half of them is reasonable. Half of the people do not need something like this, but not 99%. Hot take. Chromebooks are overhated by a lot of people in the tech space. This is not a hot take, this is completely true. They are overhated when there's no reason to hate them at all. The sheer fact that you can buy a Chromebook for like $150 and have a browser as an operating system is not that bad as it sounds. Think about it like this. A lot of people only use their laptops for stuff like maybe Netflix, maybe some office stuff, YouTube, some social media, things that you can do from a browser. So instead of paying $300 to $400 for a budget laptop, you can just pay $100, $150 for a Chromebook, and it will be able to do all these tasks. Office stuff, you got Google Docs and, well, Google Drive. Netflix, you can play it in a browser. Social media, again, in a browser, but you also have a phone. So I don't really know why people hate them so much. Indeed, the specs are awful when you look at them, but they just work. I don't know. Next. High-end specs don't matter when the user experience is bad. Yeah, That's true. This is not a hot take. This is what companies like Samsung, Google, Xiaomi, OnePlus, etc. have realized in time. You need good user experience on a very stacked phone if you want to sell it properly. And I'm happy to report they have done a lot of stuff. From this point of view, they have improved a lot. This is why Apple has been a leader for so long, because their closed ecosystem and their good optimization over their devices, software-wise, was bringing pretty much the best user experience that you could have on either phone or laptop. So yeah, this is not a hot take, this is completely true, especially when you are considering that iPhones at least did not have like the best specs ever. iPhone mini should have not been cancelled. It depends on who you ask. I personally do not care, even though I have discovered this phone. I got this phone right here for my collection, and it amazed me, like, it has a 5-inch screen. How easy it is to handle. Like, I can reach pretty much any part of the screen only using one hand, and I loved it. But at the same time, I love my S24 Ultra a lot as well, because I have this big screen. It depends on people's preferences. I've seen a lot of people who were mad because Apple discontinued the mini series, but you need to understand that the stats do not lie, and Apple does not care about the minority. Apple cares about majority. The mini series unfortunately did not sell good enough for Apple's expectations, hence they have discontinued it. So from a technical point of view, yes, it had to be cancelled because nobody was buying it. From a diversity point of view, yes, it should have not been cancelled. We need small phones as well. Next, pre-installed manufacturer-made apps are not bloatware, and Google's own apps are overhyped and not as good as advertised. They are bloatware. Let's put things this way. I had an iPhone and I have switched it for this Samsung. And when I did that, I could transfer everything from my iPhone to my Samsung via a cable, via an app. And it worked wonderful. I had the wallpapers, the layout, everything, absolutely everything transferred to the Samsung. It was almost identical to the iPhone. On the top of it, you add 17 Google apps and the Samsung bloatware. And now you have Google Play, but you also have the Samsung Galaxy Store, because Samsung wants your data as well, and it will force you to download stuff from their Galaxy Store. Then you buy a Motorola, and then you have the same 17 Google apps, and you have 5 or 6 extra apps which are coming from Motorola, which you will probably never use. What I'm trying to say is leave people download whatever they need to use. Do not load the phone with a bunch of apps which are simply useless for 99% of the people. Just let us download and use whatever we want. And the point with Google's own apps as being overhyped, I can agree with that, but it's not applicable for all apps, just a part of them. For example, I love Google Drive and I will use it forever. Next, Apple's phones and its influence has been a disaster for the tech world. Remember ridiculously thin phones, non-existent microSD, and lack of headphone jacks? Yeah. Apple's influence was bad, not phone. If we didn't have the iPhone, we probably would still be at this point with the technology nowadays in 2025. I can agree with the fact that Apple's influence is simply bad. Yes, they have removed micro SDs. Yes, they have removed the 3.5mm jack, and they should have not. The problem though is not necessarily Apple, but the companies which have been following them. Yeah, I'm looking at you Samsung, I'm looking at you Xiaomi, whatever. If Apple does it, you do not have to do it as well. But yeah, I would put most of the guilt on Apple. This is not a hot take. This is the truth. But then again, the launch of the iPhone was revolutionary and overall a good thing that happened. Next, I don't like wireless charging and fast charging because the heat it produces degrades the battery faster. I would go as far as using a slow charger, like 5 volts and 1 or 2 ampere. It's great if you're in a cooler climate like Japan, Europe, or Canada during winter or spring, but in our country, no. Thank you. Yes. To be completely honest with you, I'm not the most qualified to say if that overheat which is coming from the climate will degrade the battery faster or not. I would say that maybe yes, this is true. I'm not a big fan of wireless charging either, but not because of the heat, simply because I'm not the guy to use wireless charging, but what you need to take into consideration is that phones will probably automatically stop when they are overheated. They have like a limit. And you know, this is the second time when someone has brought up the fast charging and the heating and the battery degradation. I will do a research on this subject and I will come back with a long form video because it's worth it. A lot of people deserve to know a bit more about this. Next, diehard fanboys of either iOS or Android are just trying too hard to justify their purchase. A real tech person would appreciate the strengths and acknowledge the weaknesses of each platform. Definitely agree. This is not a hot take. This is a hot take only for the fanboys of these platforms. Period. Yes, finally someone has said it. This is not a hot take. I totally agree with you. Embrace the diversity. I actually hope for a third platform to come up and compete with this too, because we need more competition. We need better products. Next, Chinese brand flagship phones like Mi 15, Vivo X, OpenFind, etc. are a better choice now compared to Samsung S series and Apple's iPhone, especially when it comes to camera quality. It depends. Overall, I would say that this Chinese brand, indeed, they offer pretty much the most you can get for the money you pay. However, what you do not take into consideration is the user experience. Camera quality, I heard Vivo makes like some very good phones right now with very good camera quality, like good photos, good videos and all. But a lot of people will choose either Samsung or Apple for the convenience. The fact that you buy a phone and you know it will work well for a long time. And that's valid. It's just brand trust at this point. Is not necessarily something fanatic about these two brands. Indeed, they have their fans. Personally, I switched from an iPhone to a Samsung just because I wanted the closest experience I can get to an iPhone. And Samsung was the one offering me that. However, if someone comes to me and shows me a phone from, I don't know, let's say OnePlus, I like OnePlus phones a lot, I will probably recommend that person to buy it because I know they will be good phones. In the same way I will recommend Xiaomi, in the same way I will recommend Oppo's, in the same way I will recommend Vivo, even though I'm not really familiar with the latter. After Android 12, we do not need newer Android versions anymore. Completely wrong. Why do you say that? I'm really curious to know why you say that, because a lot of things can be improved over time in an operating system. You do not necessarily need to bring in more features because we already have plenty of them. However, improvements and optimization are a must. And to be honest with you, some things are changing over platforms, over versions if you want. Some of them are going back, some of them are going forward. Android is borrowing from Apple, Apple is borrowing from Android. Yeah, I don't really see anything wrong with that as long as we get full software support for it. For example, this phone, the S24 Ultra, receives 7 years of software upgrade. So yeah, I'll be here for when Android 21 launches and I want to have it on this phone. Next, ray tracing is overrated and it allows devs to be lazy in terms of optimization. No, ray tracing is just very hard to be implemented right now. In terms of what you get with ray tracing, the results are simply much better. The lighting is simply wonderful. Look at the GTA 6 trailers and you will notice how well the light looks, how good the light looks. Trust me, it will not look like that in real life without ray tracing, and the graphics in general without ray tracing and path tracing. They're simply better technologies. It's not about the game developers, even though I have to agree with the fact that they are lazy and they're not optimizing their games anymore. But that's simply because the manufacturers like Nvidia, AMD, Intel nowadays are simply not making potent graphics cards anymore. They're not really adding a lot on the hardware side of things. They're pushing their AI upscaling and frame generation and ray tracing and whatever you want a lot. And that makes the developers lazy, and that's why you say that ray tracing is overrated. Ray tracing and path tracing are not overrated. They're wonderful. They're just not being implemented correctly. If we have to point a finger to someone, that's Nvidia. Make graphic cards great again. And do not give us 8 gigabytes of VRAM for $300. Please. Next. We don't need thinner phones, we need bigger battery, or better, replaceable one. Look at the short that we have posted on this channel about the S25 Edge. My friend Alex was saying the same thing. We do not need thinner phones, we need better battery life. And seems like manufacturers don't really care about it. Hopefully the newer technologies and the newer materials that are being used in the batteries will bring an improvement on that end. But yeah, I don't think we'll see replaceable batteries soon or ever, but we're seeing that phones are easier to be repaired, or it's simply easier to replace a battery when you go to, like, I don't know, a repair shop. Yeah, again, this is not a hot take. Hey, I guess Samsung and Apple don't care. Yeah, they don't. Let's see. Built-in battery on any laptop or devices are signs of planned obsolescence by 3 to 5 years and shouldn't be an excuse to make those devices thinner. We're going back to the same, we're going back to the last point, to the last hot take, which is not a hot take. This is not a hot take either. Yes, I agree. I'm not saying devices like this should not exist. All I'm saying is that most of the people, okay, maybe not 99%, but 90% of the people would have 5mm extra thickness in a laptop or 2-3mm extra thickness in a phone for a better battery or a replaceable battery. As I said, when it comes to phones, progress has been made and now it's easier to replace a battery of a phone. That's good. We love it. Now what we want is simply better batteries, and hopefully we'll get them in the next 2 to 3 years, because we've pretty much run out of things to improve. We've pretty much only have, cameras and batteries to improve on a smartphone, and on a laptop, we have ARM, which is coming right now, and it will be more battery efficient than any x64 chips. Yeah, this is the selection that I had for hot takes, and now I want to ask you if you have any, and if you do, drop them down in the comments and we'll discuss them in maybe another video, or simply I'll just reply to them there. Meanwhile, if you enjoyed this video, a like and a subscribe would be much appreciated, because it helps us a lot to grow and improve the quality of our videos. And yeah, that's pretty much it from me. Again, I hope you liked it and got a bit of value out of it. I'll see you guys with the next video. Bye bye.